Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. I'm super excited. Today we are talking to Sam J. Royale, a frequent guest on my channel. We're here to discuss his amazing new publication. Is it a comic book? Is it a graphic novel? Is it a like what the hell is it? Well, we're gonna find out. Whatever it is, we just want you to buy it. But Sam has been working on this for a long time and it is amazing. I reviewed it. And now we have the man himself today to talk to about his amazing book. So I am so excited. So let's not waste any more time. Without further ado, welcome, Sam J. Royale. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, how are you feeling? I know that you just got back from IC3 Indie Creator Con, your inaugural Comic Con as a tabler. Do you want to tell us how the experience was for you?
It was really interesting. It was a lot of fun. I had no idea what to expect in terms of turnout from the public and all that, but it was really good. It was solid. There were a lot of people there, besides the people tabling, because that was a thing we were all unsure of. Like, is it just going to be us talking to each other, or are there going to be other people coming? And there were a lot of people. And it was really nice to meet all these creators who I've been talking to online for some of them as long as 4 years and never met face to face. And it was nice to get confirmation that they're real people, they exist. So yeah, it was a good time.
That is always kind of a surreal experience, like when you meet people, like, when you meet people in person for the first time after either talking to them online or like watching their videos and stuff. It's like you feel like you know them and obviously it's quite different. But yeah, it is interesting because it was, the first indie creator con, and I wondered that myself. I couldn't make it, but hopefully I'll make it next year.
Hope so.
um but I thought, it seemed like it had the chance of being like mostly creators. But then again, I thought, that might be fun or exciting. It was in New Haven, Connecticut. It was at a school. So that might have been fun. Like if I lived in the neighborhood, I would definitely want to swing in and, go through and see what all the fuss is about. So I'm sure that, all the pictures look great. It looked like an amazing experience. And I think it only stands to get bigger and better as time goes by.
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
Like Matthew Sardo and Cosmic Lion Productions and Comics Wellspring, they did a really great job putting the event together. And we that was one thing we were sure of going in was like, well, we're all at least going to meet each other and have fun, even if there's no turnout. So we knew it was going to be a good time no matter what, but it was better than expected.
it looked like they had a lot of amazing panels, and I forgot to check, but were you on any of those panels or?
That's one of my regrets. Rocco did invite me to be on one of the panels, and I said no because I didn't want to leave the table unattended. And then after I had already said no, my friends agreed to join me at the con, and so my table was manned all day. It would have been fine, but yeah, I really dropped the ball there by saying no.
Oh well, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and you
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
know next year. And you know, I definitely, I think you should be on a panel for sure. Um, so you were there debuting I mean, you timed it kind of perfectly. Like, you've been working on Pariah for, can I say, like 3 years now, or is
Oh
it
yeah,
three
yeah. I
years? Or
started it in 2021. It was not perfectly timed because originally
I
what
mean,
it was.
but through no fault of your own, I should say.
Well, no. It was just like it was one of those things where you have it in progress and then realize like, oh, that deadline is coming up. I have to have the book ready before then because Brandon Hayes, you had him on your show recently,
Yeah, uh-huh.
Brandon and Marcos Rocca. So Brandon Hayes and I were talking, and he's like, you're going to a convention where pretty much everyone there already has your books. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. So I needed to have the new book ready in time because most of the people there already had Dishoom 1 and 2, and I needed something new. And so I had to really push myself to get Pariah-Many lands done in time. So yeah, it was tight, but it all worked out. It was actually you did a flip through video of the book, and one of the many great things you said was you'd said that it was like my baby that I had brought into the world. And what's so funny about that is the printer proof was delivered to our house while we were at the hospital for my wife to deliver our new baby. And so really they both came on the same day, which is pretty wild to think. But yeah.
Tell me that's not fatalistic, right? I mean, I am a sucker for coincidences and then things like that. So I think it's an amazing sign. So not only did you get to welcome your real physical baby into the world, but your comic book baby that you've been gestating for 3 years. So um
Let me tell you, you know, like exciting it is to get the proof in the mail. It gets completely squashed when you're having an actual baby. Like it gets overshadowed a little bit. Nobody really cares about the book proof when the baby's the competition for attention.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, screw the comic
Rightfully
book,
so.
right? Yeah.
It's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, the
of
book, yeah,
course.
whatever. That thing I was really excited about a week ago, I couldn't care less. But
Yeah, I guess you don't really. Yeah, like, I mean, on one hand, it's kind of amazing. On the other hand, it's kind of like, oh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all happened. You got your book in time for the convention. Did you, were people selling a lot? Did you have some good sales or how was it for you?
I know for sure other people were definitely selling a lot. I sold some, more than, you know, again, I had no expectations, so I was thrilled to sell anything. But yeah, I moved a few copies. I still have to tally how many because all the books that come in packs of 10 and I brought 4 packs of 10, but instead of just using the one opened pack, things would happen and like you end up opening all the packs, and so I still have to tally how many I actually sold. But yeah, things definitely moved, and it's really nice to see people interested.
I don't think you do, but do you have any other cons lined up yet or?
Oh no. No, no,
Oh, no,
not
no.
for
Yeah,
the
like
not for the foreseeable future.
I
But I
was
know
gonna
like
say you barely pulled this one off, I imagine.
right, yeah, pretty much. It was tough, but yeah, at the event, everyone was super excited about next year. So, you know, here's hoping that pans out, and you know, I can return, and maybe you can come by too, and you know, we could do it all over again.
It looks like you had a nice table set up. I guess we can thank your lovely wife for that. God knows she's amazing when it comes to packaging the whole SJR deal.
Yes,
So,
we have her to thank. She bought most of the stuff. She bought the tablecloth. She bought the book stands. Like she was the one who picked all that stuff out and got it all sorted out. And then I was talking to when it was time to set up the table. I was talking to Rocco Jerome, and I turned around and my friends had set everything up, and I hadn't talked to them about it yet. And they did a much better job than I would have done. So it's
she
kind of for the best
maybe
that I didn't get to
maybe
say
she
anything.
gave them instructions on the sly or
You
something.
know what? She might have maybe, or there's like a WhatsApp group I'm not invited to, but
Either
my
that or
friends did
you
a
just
great
have
job.
really adept friends. Huh?
I really do. They really, as much fun as I had at the event, it would have been still would have been fun, but far less without them for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So, okay, so tell us about, okay, so I have like the whole, as Facebook Memories told us the other day, it was what, the 2 year anniversary of this dope envelope art that Sam made for me, Little Monster. Like, it's a creature with sunglasses and lips for my Lady Gaga because I'm forever tied to Lady Gaga because of my Going Gaga Lady Gaga comic book. So Sam very thoughtfully personally made this for me. It's like one of my favorite pieces of
Oh,
original art
thanks.
that I own. And not only just because it's special in that way, but it also houses the first issue of Dishoom, Sam's amazing anthology. It's so funny. I don't know where. I mean, I know it's here somewhere, but Dishoom #2 is the only thing I'm missing from my little pile of Sam J. Royale goodness. Yes, that is it, the one in question, because I have my pariah.
Right.
All right. So, I mean, we've already covered Dishoom and Dishoom #2, both amazing anthologies showcasing your beautiful, gorgeous art. So, I feel like Pariah is sort of like a natural extension of Dishoom or like a natural sort of follow up in a way. Do you want to like say anything on that? Like, is there any relation or what led to Pariah from Dishoom?
So it's kind of a complicated thing. They are related in that, in my head at least, they take place in the same universe. It doesn't matter if you have read Dishoom first or not, or if you've read Pariah. They stand alone, but in my head canon, they exist in one universe, and there are little hints to that because in Dishoom 2, there's a story called Whispers from Beyond, and there are these yellow-skinned reptile people, and there is also a yellow-skinned reptile person in Pariah. So little hints like that. Um, and there are a few more, but that was part of it. And what was funny was Pariah largely grew out of frustration from working on Dishoom 2. So there's a story called Diamonds and Disappointment, and I kind of set myself up for failure in that story where I put all of my weaknesses in there. Like, oh, I need to work on fight choreography, so I'm going to put a fight scene. Oh, I need to work on drawing cars, so I'm going to put vehicles in there. I got to work on drawing women. It's got a female protagonist. And it was exhausting. This is like, oh my gosh, every page is so challenging. There's nothing I could just kind of breeze through. And so what happened was I would draw a page and I would throw the whole thing out and redraw the page, and I'd be doing it like 5, 6, 7, 8 times for like every page in that story. And maybe halfway through the story, I thought I need a break from this, and I'm just going to draw things that I know I can do without any trouble. And so I just leaned into my strengths and dusted off this old character that I came up with in college way longer ago than I would like to admit, probably 19 or 20 years ago. And yeah, it was he came back to me in a dream where in 2021 he screamed at me, and I thought, oh yeah, well there's a sign. I haven't thought about that guy in a while. I should bring him back. And Rick Lopez, who goes by Doom Dazed on Instagram, talented artist friend of mine, and he has this thing called Next Panel Press where they do these every 2 weeks. They do these comic strips, and I thought that would be a fun format. And so I was just kind of inspired by them to bring back this old character, but in a strip format. And so that's where Pariah had originally come from.
Yeah, Rick Lopez is on my hit list. I still need to get a hold of Cosmic Cat. It's like we just know too many people is the problem. Like,
Too
but
many talented
I
people.
need to just review everybody's book and just like, have them all on my show to interview them because there are so many amazing, talented people out there in the indie comic book world. So then you started Pariah through the Next Panel Press.
Well, not through them. It was more just like inspired by them. And there was talks like maybe of putting it in there. What happened, what tripped me up was the strips every 2 weeks, because I thought, oh gosh, I don't know if I could do that many. Uh, so it's like I was like, if we could do it once a month, maybe. And so we had some back and forth, and it's still up in the air if it's going to be part of Next Panel Press or not. But either way, I can definitely say they were the partial inspiration for the strip format.
What I was going to say is that the reason why it's like the square format
That is
because
why,
of
yeah. Well, it's funny, like when I was in college and I made up the character, it was always in a square format, and that was pre-Instagram. But then it turned out Instagram at least used to favor square content, and so that was why in 2021, when I started getting serious about making the book, I went with that. So it'd be Instagram friendly, and so that was something when choosing fonts and font sizes and all of that. I would test it on my phone. I would like email it to myself, open it on my phone, and it's like, is it readable if it's on Instagram without zooming in? And that was like a test that I wanted to pass.
it's so funny you talked about the main character here who was, a lot in this book and who came back to you through a dream that you created, in your college days. And I got the chills when I read that in the back, like how he was created and what he meant to you and the design and things like that. And I have to say, like this whole thing, like I feel like this is like a physical experience as much as a mental one. Like I don't know, like I got the chills when I read that. Like when I opened the book, I was so excited and like moved. Like I thought it was so beautiful. I actually
Oh,
did
thanks.
cry. Like I know exactly like you can see the love and the hard work that you put in here, and I know how much like time you spent on it, and I know how difficult it was for you to make the time, having a full-time job and a family and a baby on the way and stuff like that. So, um, but you said it was like one of the most fun you've had doing it. So it's like we talk about the format and we talk about the process and things like that, but at the end of the day, it really is about making the comic books in it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And to go back to what you said earlier, like comparing and contrasting Pariah with Dishoom, I guess like Pariah, the stories are a little more structured, and with Pariah, it's more stream of consciousness and dream logic, and the stories are shorter bursts. Each strip is a 4-page thing with a cover and a graphic design pinup. So it just kind of moves. And that's why, we talked earlier about how do we define this thing? What do you call it? Is it a comic book? Is it a graphic novel? And part of why I hesitated to call it a graphic novel is because it's not really one big story. It's interconnected, but any one of the 5 episodes would stand alone on its own. So it's really just a collection of strips. It's 16 comic strips in a book that comes out to 100 pages. And I think it kind of works as at least a spiritual start to finish story. There's a symbolic beginning and end to it that makes some sense.
Well, I think it's a complete success. I think it has, the pacing and the flow of it is really good. It's like, I mean, it has everything it needs. It hooked me in right away, and it kept me going throughout the whole ride. And at the end, it left me wanting more. So I think that what more could you want out of a graphic novel?
That's always good to hear. Thanks a lot.
Would you like to talk about the name Pariah, where that came from, and if there's any meaning behind it, or?
Sure. Yeah. So let me just pull up the notes here. So yeah, well, pariah means outcast, which most people probably know already. That was a new
I'm
word
well
to me.
aware. I'm just gonna.
It was a brand new word to me when I was 20. I'll be honest. I thought it was like, oh, this is a great name for the book, and I was all jazzed about how unique it was. And my friend was like, yeah, everyone knows that word. I'm like, oh,
Well, it's one of the linchpin characters of Crisis on Infinite Earths, created by George Perez and
oh, there you go.
Marv Wolfman, and he has you would like him. He has like big, like billowy sleeves and like a big green cape and a lot of metal accents on his costume. And every time something horrible is happening, he gets sucked away and taken to witness it. So, I
Oh,
mean,
wow, that
yeah.
sounds heavy. That sounds a little kind of Jim Starlin-y, and like billowy sleeves and metal accents and all of that.
Yeah, well,
That's
it's
fun.
probably
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
anyway. So
Yeah,
back to your Pariah.
yeah, that's pariah. Yeah, so it means outcast, and it's one of those English words that actually has Indian origin, like guru or avatar or yoga. Uh, and so it kind of spoke to me on that level. And you can be an outcast for all kinds of things, like your sexuality, your gender, or even your interests. Like you and I grew up in a time where it wasn't particularly okay to like comic books or superheroes. That's very different now, but that was something we kind of had to keep quiet. But why I really identified with the term personally, it's I have a bunch of examples I could give, but I want to keep it kind of light. So I'll stick with one from way back in high school, uh, where I remember being in homeroom and I was talking to a friend of mine, and this other kid interrupted and he's like, "Hey, you know who you look like?" And I was like, "No, who's that?" He was like, "You look like that guy from Short Circuit." And I hadn't seen the movie, and the conversation took place before IMDb existed, or at least before I knew about it. So I didn't know what he was talking about until like years later. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's an Indian character in this movie, and it's Fisher Stevens painted brown. you know, like uh growing up, like the only examples we had in media, like anything with any kind of mainstream success or attention to it, was Short Circuit and Apu from The Simpsons, and both were white guys portraying brown guys. So like we couldn't even speak for ourselves or represent ourselves. And So it just made me think that some people are going to put a label on you, and that's what they're going to use to define you, regardless of what you do or say. And so I figured if you're going to get labeled as different anyways, you might as well lean into it and stand out and be different on purpose. And to some extent, that's like what influenced my approach to comic book art. Like, okay, if everyone's doing pencils, inks, and then colors, I'll just jump in with colored pencils or pastels or crayons or whatever, like just something to stand out in a way that would be different from everyone else. And so yeah, that's kind of where that came from. And it even continues on in the character itself, like where you talked about it in your flip through video, but the plaid boxer shorts, I made it a point where anytime he has his underwear visible, or pretty much any outfit he has, it's in contrast to the environment. So there's a story where he's on Mars, and so it's all these red sands, and he's wearing blue camouflage boxer shorts, which isn't going to help you blend in on the red planet very much. So it's like whatever it is, he's going to stick out, like it or
Yeah,
not.
luckily for you, plaid is usually in contrast to most things in the world. But yeah,
That's good too.
like this little panel here where his all his little plaid shorts are hanging out on the clothesline is just like such an amazing panel. Like I
Oh, thanks.
said, like if this whole comic book thing goes tits up, you definitely have a career in plaid design in your future. So
I wore this just for you today.
I have to say, it's sort of a deep cut, or maybe like I'm just like reaching, but you know, it's like is this your love letter to the 90s? It's like a CD booklet format. There's plaid, you know, happening, maybe a tip of the hat to the grunge movement. I don't know. I'm
You
just
know
kidding.
what? There, well, you say it, but there is, so even the graphic design. So like there, like I mentioned earlier, there were like graphic design pinups that precede every story, and it's grunge typography, and even that is very much a product of the '90s. So I mean, it wasn't something I intentionally sought to do, but the '90s are all over this thing for sure. And um, there was this other thing that I had made. This was something I was giving away at the con. So this is the PARIAH-Many lands is 6x6, so it's a little bigger than a CD booklet. But one of the episodes, episode 3, I had printed at actual CD booklet size, and this was something I thought I would just give, because it's such a short story. It's 4 pages, a cover, and then there's some ads in the back. So I was like, I wasn't comfortable selling it because half the thing is ads. But then what happened at the con was, even though this story is already included in the book, people who bought the book were like, no, I got to have this one too, because there's like a couple images that aren't in the book. And it's like, okay, well, if you want it, I'll throw it in. But so it's like I have a whole stack of these. I'm not quite sure what to do with them yet. Maybe I can turn some of the other episodes into CD booklets and sell them as bundles, or I don't know. Time will tell. Some people are getting them randomly in the mail for free.
Like, darn, that is so cool. I wish I had one.
Like I was going to deny you.
I know. I didn't know if I was supposed to say I have it or not, but fuck you all. I have it. Where is, I had something else that was, oh yes. Can we talk about this for a minute? I get hung up on little silly things, but I
Sure.
almost gasped when I pulled this out. This is the
Oh yeah.
coolest business card ever. Like it is so evil. Like it is like, I damn you and your color. Like I think you have a secret pact with like the color demons, because
Oh God.
how do you make colors that we're all used to look so much more beautiful? Like there are so many like pinks and greens and blues. I mean, I guess since I changed gears, let's talk about your color. Like it's so
Sure.
amazing.
Well, thank you, first of all. Second, it's really just look at the color wheel, basic color theory stuff. But uh, you brought up like the satanic colors in your flip through video.
Can't,
And
I just see
uh,
this in a movie, like give this to her and you will know. You know what I mean?
yeah, right. Like maybe something where like Christopher Walken's playing the devil or something, and he
Yeah, for
slips this
sure.
card across the bar. But it's funny. I'll give you this. I never told anyone the story, probably because I didn't think it was interesting enough to share. But if we're already on the topic of the story behind the colors and the brand, what what it comes from is I studied graphic design in college, and one of the courses we had was something that was supposed to prepare us for the job application and interview process, which is a very useful idea. But what was happening was they had us all as an assignment develop a personal brand for our resume and business cards and stuff that we're going to be mailing out to different design studios and corporations to get their attention. And the course lasted 10 weeks. And the thing with like logo design is, recently I did a logo for somebody where it took 10 minutes. And I also recently did a logo for somebody where it took 3 months. And both of them needed exactly that amount of time. If you take that logo that required 10 minutes and you just overworked it for 3 months, it's not going to get any better. If anything, it's going to get bogged down and it's going to get worse. There are horror stories of it, like with not the current Pepsi logo, but the one just before it, where they were trying to go for like this scientific, very geometric look. And there's a whole book that they presented, the design studio that did it presented to the client, to Pepsi, explaining all the meanings behind it. And they were going into like the magnetic poles of the earth and, the little red, white, and blue circle for Pepsi. That's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like, who could care? Who
Nobody.
could possibly care? And like, it's not adding anything to the product. It's not adding any value. It's just this book that they are giving them is like to justify, this is why you paid me $1 million. See all this hard work I did? But like, it didn't add anything. And so what happened with my course was by week 2, I had a personal identity that I was good with. And I was required to work on it for another 8 weeks. And so by the end of it, I hated it. And what I had was a light blue logo on a white background. And if you invert that, you get a red logo with a black background. And so that's what happened was like I took that assignment at the end and thought, well, if I'm going to do it my way, I'm just going to like go the opposite direction, literal opposite. I'm going to invert the colors and I'm going to change everything. And then I just did this logo that I'm using now in an afternoon. And that's where the red and black came from. So it wasn't like an intentional decision to like be all dark and satanic or whatever. It was I have no interest in that.
It's just a happy accident.
Yeah, exactly. The evil is natural.
You just can't help yourself. I just inverted it and it became satanic. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So when is the last time you drew? Like you probably don't have any time for it right now.
I think I drew in somebody's sketchbook at the convention, and I was under the influence at the time. So I'm kind of scared to see what that looks like now. But
that'll
yeah,
probably wind up being like the most like sought after, like expensive piece of original Sam J. Royale art in the
it's embarrassing
universe.
The artist whose book I drew it in, he drew a beautiful sketch in mine, and he really got the short end of that stick there.
Oh, poor guy. Well, you'll make it up to him somehow. I don't know, But I mean, yeah, it's weird because it's like I always wonder, like, if you're gonna get like a sketch from Alex Ross in your sketchbook when you're used to like because you love his paintings, like, what are you getting in your sketchbook? You know what I mean? Probably something amazing, I'm sure.
Well, have you ever seen his like thumbnail sketches where he's just like using the edge of a pencil?
I know.
They still look
You
like
could actually
photographs.
print the whole damn book. I know, he's annoying. So what did you make any discoveries at IC3? Did you find any books or creators that you weren't aware of before? I mean, I know it's a very incestuous crowd, so you probably knew everybody already.
No, there were a bunch I didn't know. I'm trying to see if I don't have anything handy. It's all packed away because we don't have a whole ton of space here. It's all in one of the closets back there. But I had
put you on the spot.
Yeah, I didn't have that. I just have pariah drawings everywhere on all the original art from the book. But yeah, I was tabling next to Jim Lawson, who worked on the Ninja Turtles for like 20 years, and that was a real thrill for me because I'd been a fan since I was a teenager. And he had a book called "The Elves Are Revolting," and it was about Christmas elves revolting against Santa Claus. And I was sitting there next to him trying to sell my own Christmas cards. So it was kind of cool to bond with somebody over Christmas in March. um, but yeah, I wish I had the stuff handy. I would hold it out. There's a lot of good discoveries. I just can't remember all the names. It's a real
It was a
shame.
whirlwind. It was a
It
whirlwind.
really was. Like I'm still like it's like, oh, I put 2 comic books in my backpack and 3 in this box in the trunk of the car, and it's just like I'm still finding them all. I think I'm not
Yeah.
fully recovered from that trip yet, but
How was your
yeah,
hotel?
it's fine.
Yeah, like I can't even picture like New Haven. It must be like kind of small and quiet and pretty.
We didn't know what to expect because like the hotel we were staying at was like in conjunction with Yale, but the convention itself was not. It was with another college, and so yeah, it was a much quieter town than I would have guessed prior to going, but it was very
I f-
quiet. Yeah.
I feel like New Haven might be famous for their pizza, so I would definitely have to find their that famous pizza while I was there.
They keep talking about it, yeah, but see, like all us New Yorkers were kind of like, I don't get it.
Oh yeah, what I know, right?
It was fine. It was good. Like it wasn't bad by any means. It was good pizza, but I don't know. I can't imagine like traveling for it specifically either.
Yeah, I forgot why it's special, but I think it is. I think it
I'm
is. I
sure there's
think it is.
something
But
to
I
it.
mean, like you said, you're from New York, so what do you care, right? I know. Um,
Honestly, I'm not a pizza snob. I'm the type of guy who's like, pizza's pizza. It's all good. But my wife is very opinionated on pizza because she's
is she?
from Queens, and yeah. So like, that's a very serious topic of discussion in her family for sure.
She's a woman of discerning taste. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
she chose you, so
that's right.
she must have a deft palate.
I think so.
Yeah. Um, so what like what? So what?
What? So what? Here, you want to
I
hold
know,
up some
right?
original art? Will that help? I could
It
take
will.
control
No,
of
I
the interview
oh
here.
no, I just okay, these chapter breaks are insane. Like how did you even approach that? Like
That was kind of all over the place. So, like I mentioned before, the '90s. Oh, those things. Yeah. So that was another thing I
those
wanted
are
to talk
the
about.
70s albums covers.
So I should probably give a little bit of information about the character and what he is. He's like this interplanetary thief, barbarian type character, and he's maybe got a trait that a lot of comic book fans can relate to, where he'll get obsessive about acquiring certain things. He'll have certain holy grails in mind, and he just fixates on them. And so, anytime there's some kind of a relic or something of importance that he wants to get his hands on, there'll be like a full page typography thing introducing it. So there's like the dagger of Erebos, or the Paul Bunyan's axe or whatever. And I just took it as an opportunity to do something fun with the lettering. And the influences are all over the place. Like there's Ben Shahn hand lettering as an influence. There's, you mentioned '70s album covers. That's another big one. Yeah, because when you're working with a square format and you're trying to find inspiring things, you look at a lot of CDs and albums and record covers and all of that. But yeah, the approach for the actual chapter breaks, where it's just that grunge typography stuff. I want to find a good example in here real quick. Pages are not turning. Here we go. So like something like this, what I'd do is I would just kind of start with the blank white square on my screen and put on some kind of music. And hopefully by the end of it, I would have the piece. And I would try to fly through those as quickly as possible. Um, and they're all designs that don't have full bleed. So they are all contained within that white square. So eventually, when I get some free time, I'd like to make some t-shirts and prints and mugs and stickers out of those, and hopefully get that going.
Well, as we've talked in the past about your process and stuff, you're a multimedia artist. You definitely use whatever it takes, many forms, pen, ink, paint. Uh, but was a lot of this digital from what I understand, or is it
It's
still you have is all this original art? Oh my gosh, you're insane.
so
Like, see. That is so crazy. Like how you torture yourself with this stuff.
Well, it was part of the
I
fun.
mean,
So there was this chapter here, God, I can't find it, where I kind of, inspired by animation, thought, oh, what if I kept the background the same and just had the character move in front of it uh, from page to page? And so I thought, well, if I'm going to reuse the same background on the cover and then on the following 4 pages, that's 5 pages of one background. So I might as well put some time into it. And yes, I took out some markers, colored pencils, white paint, and this is just brown packing paper, uh, probably from an Amazon box or something.
mhm.
And so like that was one thing. And then like I had another thing where it was like, I probably drew it rough on a sketchbook and then didn't like how it came out. So I put tracing paper over it. And then all these things, I don't have a scanner. So then I would photograph them and then digitally paint on top of them. But, that's how you get things like this. It's a lot of white paint. And I
Please
realized
tell,
like
you're not taking pictures with your phone, are you? To scan them?
I am taking pictures with my phone.
That's insane.
They're pretty good quality. um, yeah, there's a lot of trial and error. Like, so I loved how like something like this came out, but then I realized this is a huge waste of white paint.
I just came across that guy and I love him. He is so cool. Like there's something about your characters that has this real, like I talk about the humor in your art that is just like so subtle. Like you know how like in a lot of cartoons, like the henchmen are always like such like I don't know, like oafs, but they're often relatable. Like I feel like you're the writer of all of those characters. You know what I mean? Like you get that sort of sensibility or
I
humor.
think
Like
so. Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. Because again, in your flip through video, you were talking about the character design for Pariah and how he's like kind of like dark and imposing looking and all of those things. And that's all true. Like the way I like to think of it is like, what does like a what would you think is really cool when you're a 12-year-old boy, and then like really lean into that and then do something silly to completely undercut it? So it's like he's got all these ridiculous muscles and like he's got the crazy triangular white eyes, and like he looks really like kind of creepy. But then like he's got the bright boxer shorts, or like there's a point where he's wearing pink tights. There's always something to undercut it, or like he just gets like humiliated by other characters. It's basically I just wouldn't allow this character to be left with dignity at any point in the story.
I have to say, as like he is like I love the design and aesthetic of the character. Like he has a lot going on for him. You know what I mean? He is dark and menacing, but kind of heroic at the same time, and dare I say, sexy. Like I said, in my review. But also, I could easily see him being turned into a plush toy at the same time. Like so, I don't know. Like it's just the one of the many amazing things, and we have to talk about this silly this is the most one of the most hilarious things in this book. This like, is that a chicken that he's riding? Like, what the
Oh.
hell is that? It's
All right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is kind of funny, like what happened with that. Uh what my wife and I went to Kauai, and you being on the West Coast, have you been there?
no.
We're okay. I hadn't traveled anywhere either. My wife is much more well traveled than me, and so it was my first time, and I think her second time going. And we get off the plane and get out of the airport, and there are these wild chickens running around. And I didn't know that's a thing. That's a thing there. I don't know why. I didn't look up the history of it. There must be a story behind it, but there's all these chickens. And what struck me was I didn't realize like how many bright colors are in chicken feathers. So there are all these roosters, and like you see the whole spectrum, like the Hawaii sunlight hitting them, and you see all these like blues and greens and purples and golds, and they just have everything. It was really beautiful. And so I immediately like just dropped to my knees and started like taking pictures. And what I didn't know is roosters are very, very territorial, and they apparently hang out in packs.
Oh no.
And so me taking pictures was read as an act of aggression, and we were chased by like this gang of like 20 chickens for a good half hour.
Welcome to Kauai.
but it was just so funny. We couldn't lose them.
You know, the reason I dug it is because the last time I went home to visit my family, my cousin lives in Michigan, and her wife just got a new chicken coop, and they have five birds. Are they birds? They're not
They are
birds, are
birds.
they? But okay, so they had five birds. I'm saying birds because they're not all chickens. One was a rooster, and one's a goonie, and a guinea hen. But
Oh, okay.
they are beautiful. Like it's
Yeah.
amazing, like the colors and like the thing is like we were walking through the backyard approaching the chicken coop and they're very strange. These chickens, they like the noises they make and they're kind of like creepy the way they like wah 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 like they're checking you out and stuff. And I was just like, and you can't deny like the obvious like dinosaur DNA that runs through their
I
blood.
was
Like
just gonna say they're like little dinosaurs running around for
they
sure.
are.
and and so in the book, like what he's writing it, and that was partly it was part inspired by the chickens that we saw on that trip, and part inspired by those old prehistoric flightless terror birds. You know those things like, they have like the skeletons in the museum, and they're like 10 feet tall, and they're
Yeah.
so scary. like,
That's what I like about you and your art and your inspiration because like you're always inspired by your trips and like stuff like that. I mean, you take good pictures and you always work them into your art. Did you work a cafe that you went to into Dishoom or was that
yeah,
my
there's a cafe in Cape May, New Jersey that ended up in Dishoom. But like, okay, so you see this thing with the background with like the Pacific Northwest and all the big coniferous trees. Those were based on vacation photos that my wife took from a trip she went on years and years ago, long before me. But yeah, like I've never seen anything like that in person. I thought that was really pretty. But yeah, I try to pull inspiration from pretty much anywhere, and you don't know where you're gonna get it from sometimes. Like I remember we were hanging out with my nephews, and like there was a toy microscope, and like the colors of the toy microscope like triggered like the next painting I was gonna do. So it's like
it's funny
anything.
that since you pulled out this panel, another gorgeous page, of course.
Oh,
But
thanks.
so this like it's funny because in this panel here, sorry viewers, but it could be like it's to show that like he's tiny next to this humongous axe because for a second there I thought, oh, this could be forced perspective. Like it
Ah.
could be like in the foreground and then he could be like really far away. But that was just an afterthought because I'm like, this has to be the biggest axe in comic books for sure.
Maybe, because like all those tall tales of Paul Bunyan, like they said like the Grand Canyon was carved because he was dragging his axe behind him. So it's a big axe.
And here I thought it was like a meteor or something. Um, and I also love like this Bull character has obviously a huge animation influence in a way that I'm not picking up on. Do you wanna tell
Not
me?
anything specific, but animation influences all over my work in general, and probably especially in Pariah, like just the kind of the body language, the facial expressions, the proportions. There's a lot of animation influence for sure.
And since we discussed it before, okay, I'm a size queen and I love big comic books. I love treasury size. I love, like huge art. I love the artist editions and everything. And you've been chipping it away at my sense of reality and like you won me over with, the first Dishoom is I call it like the boutique size. It's like very,
I like that.
user friendly. You can take it on the subway. It's like the size of an expensive greeting card. And it just reads really nice. The art looks great on the page. And then just when you got me used to that, you go ahead and pull out a smaller format. But I have to say, like, you have a really great ability to make it look so big on a small page, if that makes
Oh,
sense. You know
thanks.
what I mean? Like it's so grandiose. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of um landscape and like like impact. This is the page you flip past this, but this is the one I called the John Denver album cover for some
Yeah,
reason. It
totally.
reminds me of that. But yeah, this is his collection. Now talking to you, I love to know that like he's like a collector or a hoarder, or this is his, thing that he has to collect. So way to work in something that's relatable to the readers, huh?
Right. Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and you mentioned in the flip through video that the axe was hanging upside down, and you're like, oh, I bet Sam's got a story behind that. No, that was a mistake. I looked it up online after you said that. I was like, oh yeah, you're supposed to hang the axe the other way. The guitar. But the story behind that guitar, what that is. So I'm a big Queen fan. Oh, good, you'll hold it up. Yeah, and that is Brian May's Red Special guitar. That so like Brian May is like one of those freaks who just has to be good at everything, right? So he's like an astrophysicist on top of being this like guitar god, and like he built that electric guitar himself with his dad when he was 16, and he still uses it today. And like I don't know if that's not like this magical object that this guy should be stealing. I don't know what is.
yeah, that's a level of like insanity that I can't even approach. Okay, so it's funny because you said, these are like the first 16 chapters. So
Right.
is there like a plan moving forward? Is there a continuation? Is there an end game? Like, how do you feel about the future of Pariah?
Well, I would love for it to just continue for as long as I can, but ultimately, at least in my head, I do have an end in mind for him one day. Uh, whether I get to it or not, who knows? Just because, you only have so many years on this planet where you get to make
Right.
comic
And that big
books.
solar eclipse is coming soon. So you never
Oh
know. You
gosh.
never know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, the idea was just to keep the strips coming out for as long as I can. And this is so the 16 strips, it breaks down into 5 episodes, and each episode is a standalone story. And so it could end here and it would be okay, but I have a lot more scripts and thumbnails already set. I just need the time. But before I get into any of that, I definitely want to get back to Dishoom 3 because I know people have been waiting. And that's been in the works for a while now, and I have a few other things that I won't go into too much detail about, but there are other things in the works as well. So
Well,
yeah,
good. I mean, that is good news. And since we talked, I did actually want to talk about this for a hot second, because you mentioned your graphic design class. Well, now, were you set to become a graphic designer, or was that just part to sort of like make you more well-rounded as an artist?
yeah. I studied graphic design. That was my major, and what I did, like, I kind of lucked into it because like when I started school and like chose graphic design as a major, I didn't really know what it was. Like I just liked to draw, and I was like, well, this sounds more like a real job. So let me
Yeah,
let
it
me try
sounds like
this
what
out.
people say they want to be when they don't want to say they're a comic book artist or something like that, right? I'm a graphic
Right.
artist.
But I lucked out because like once I started to see what it was, I ended up really liking it and developing a passion for it. But what would always happen was I would always think like whatever I was learning, like how can I apply it to comic books one day? Like, oh, this will help me design a better comic book cover, and oh, this will help me like do the page layouts better. And like it was always in the back of my mind to do that. And whenever I had a room in my schedule, I would take illustration courses. I didn't pursue it as like a minor or anything, but or a double major or anything like that. But I took a lot of illustration courses, and there were a lot of like figure drawing sessions that they would have every now and then where they would have a live model and you just show up and you could draw from life for a good 3 hours at a time. That was usually like a Saturday morning thing. So I would do that just to like kind of stay sharp. And this probably wouldn't surprise you, but I showed up to those sessions with a box of Crayola crayons in my sketchbook, and like the model always like would have a look when like they see the crayons come out, because then they think like, oh, like this person just wanted to see naked people. He's not serious about drawing, and like, but but then they'd see the work and okay, he's actually doing it. So
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, so nude models, don't be scared if your artists whip out crayons in the future.
exactly.
Um, but I mean, I definitely, I feel like you're just as much of a graphic designer as you are an artist. I mean, you do tons of logos for people.
Also my day
Very
job.
that's your day job.
It is
Well,
my day
that's
job. I do graphic design for a publishing company. So I advertise for books, and so I am a graphic designer by trade. So graphic
all
designer by
right.
night, comic book artist by night. Yeah, one by day, one by, you know what I mean.
I
Yeah.
do. I do. Everyone knows what you mean. So Dishoom is number three is next, or
It,
you're not sure. Like these are all things you will you work on whenever you have the time or when the inspiration hits you,
oh
something
no,
like that.
it's all in the works, but let me phrase it this way. Dishoom 3 will be my next comic book work that I'll have out.
Hmm.
There may be other things that come out before it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any work so far on Dishoom 3? Have you started at all on it, or
Oh yeah, yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
oh yeah,
I've
yeah.
had the roster of stories planned out for at least the first 5 or 6 issues, and yeah, like there's a pretty set direction on Dishoom. I'm not playing that by ear. Pariah, I'm mostly playing by ear. It's easier to shuffle things around and make things up on the spot for that character and that world, but Dishoom is a lot more planned.
Now, are these like, okay, so is this like the Sam J. Royale universe? Are they completely separate entities? Like, could Helga Hale show up in a future Pariah, or does this bunny have a name, by the way? I forgot.
Well, that's the thing. In my head, his name is Pariah, but
Okay.
no one in story refers to him as such. The narration never calls him that, because it's like, I don't know. I just like to keep it either way. I'm fine with you calling him Pariah. I'm fine with you calling him the protagonist, the main character, whatever, because in story he's not given a name. So yeah, but in my head his name was always Pariah. But you mentioned Helga Hale. There's a page here somewhere.
Is she
There's a
in here and
little.
I missed it?
She's not here exactly, but there's a tiny little Helga Hale symbol on this
Ah, I
alien
love
map.
it.
And I'm also wearing the Helga Hale t-shirt right now. You see
Ah, Helga
it.
Hale.
Yeah.
All hail, Helga Hale.
That's right. Uh, oh, you know what? In your flip through video, you were asking about this because, like I said, I mentioned the map being drawn in crayon here.
Yes. So show me it. I know you're gonna whip out the big map and
Well,
crayon that you have at your feet.
the thing is, it's not done in crayon. I did it digitally. It's a lie. Uh, so, like, what happened? It was
I
like I
feel
said,
robbed.
there's a lot of stream of consciousness in this book, and so like I was talking to Ben Granoff, and he made fun of me for using crayons, and it happened to be when I was working on that page, and so I just threw that line in there. But yeah, that map was actually done digitally. But if you want to talk about mixed media, so like you see how it's like that parchment paper with all the creases and everything. I didn't want to draw or paint any of that. So what I did was, do you remember? I don't know if you'll remember this Highlights magazine. It was like a children's
Yes. Oh
magazine.
my God. Like the only reason to go to the dentist.
Yeah, so it's like I was like at a doctor's appointment when I was like maybe 6 years old, and they had a Highlights magazine in there, and it had like a recipe for making parchment paper. And I remember
Wow.
And I remember reading it over and over and over again to memorize it because I couldn't take a picture. There was no phones with the cameras on there. And so I like just had to memorize it and go home and put it into action. And so, yeah, I actually made the parchment paper using the tea bag and the copier paper and the big bowl of water. And then when it dried, I folded it up and then I photographed it. And then that photograph is what is on that page. And then I digitally drew the map on the photo of folded up parchment paper.
And it's like you're an artist who gives till it hurts. And I really hope people appreciate that because, like I
Oh,
said,
thanks.
it's like I did have that slight feeling like when I was finished that, like, is it like a panic feeling or something? Like, it's like, oh my God, it's over. What now? You know
Oh,
what I mean?
no.
And it's like, just, you know what I mean? Like, same for you, I guess. Like, it's so much work. You said it's clocking in at like, is it about 100 pages? Just
It is
under, just
exactly
over?
100 pages.
That is
Exactly
so
100.
cool.
But don't worry.
Um,
Look, it says not the end.
Not the end, never the end, never the end. And you mean it.
I
I
do mean it.
know. Like, if there was any question whether you were a graphic designer or not, like this great house ad for Dishoom 1 and Dishoom 2. So
Thanks.
amazing. Have you not completely sold out of Dishoom 1 by now?
Dishoom 1 I did sell out, and it's on its second print. It's been on its second printing for a while. Dishoom 2
Okay.
I still have first printings of, but the numbers are going down, so I gotta look into reprints, or if I'm even gonna entertain that this time. But again,
Yeah.
like talking about graphic design nerd stuff, like the size and fonts are all consistent with the business card, and the logo on the back is exactly the same as my sticker. I don't have it handy, but you could just put it right on and it would be the exact same thing.
Well, you're in luck. I think I have one. I
And
do.
it, even if the book size changes, the back does not. It's always the same. So yeah, it's probably some form of OCD
I
that
was going to say, so when were you diagnosed?
yeah, it's one of those things. My dad's an engineer, and I think graphic design training like automatically gets you going down those rabbit holes, unfortunately. And so like sometimes like when I'm really, really sucked into the work, I can get a little obsessive and controlling about it. That's why like that's why you never see any guest covers or pinups by other people. I have so many talented artist friends, and I don't let anybody near my stuff. It's
I was thinking
control
about that
thing.
earlier because so, I've done pinups for other people. People have done pinups for me, and it's a lot of fun and very communal. But uh, I like selfishly, like I don't want someone else's art in your book. Like I think that you're like a special case. Like I mean, I'm not trying to make you sound like elitist or like above it or anything like that, but it just seems like it would be inappropriate in something like this. Do you know what I mean? Like this is
I
your
don't.
timeless graphic album, and then like you don't want some crappy pinup from some dork that
But
you know or
it's not
something.
even, it wouldn't even be a crappy pinup. We both know so many talented people, like they would do great work. It's just, I don't know. It's a total me problem where I'm just like, no, only my stuff in the book.
I think that's a I think it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, is what
I
I'm
just,
saying.
it's partly, like an overthinking thing. Like, oh, well, then down the line, if I want to do reprints or something, like, how does that work out? Because now someone else did the work. And, in like the beginning, it says like copyright Sam J. Royale 2024, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, I don't know how it works. I'm too like dumb to work all that out. And so I thought, well, one way to make sure it all stays yours is if you just keep yourself in it. But that being said, my wife's work is actually in here, kind of.
Where?
Yeah. So there's one story. What is it called? Um, this one here, an elephantine ordeal, is called. The chapter is called Rabbit's Moon, and
Okay, I'm
um,
flipping.
I guess, yeah, I don't think spoilers really matter, right? Okay,
No.
spoiler alert for anyone who cares. But
For the 65 people that watch this, sorry.
oh, you got 2,000 subscribers. I know that. You know that. Uh,
This could be the viral video that I've been looking for.
here's hoping. Yeah, but there's this cursive handwriting that shows up in it, and that's actually
Aw,
Neha's handwriting.
I
Um,
absolutely love that touch. It's a way to include her, and it's beautiful writing too.
oh,
Stop what you're
thanks.
doing and look at the moon. Is that it?
Yes, that's exactly. And on the page before, wherever that phrase comes, that's hers. But uh, so it always feels funny to say whenever it's like this 6 foot tall, muscular rabbit man in a loincloth with an axe as your main character, but a lot of the stories have some degree of autobiography in them. And and
Well,
I know that that feels like a stretch, but like at least on like a spiritual level or an emotional level, that is the case. And so what was happening in that story, in real life, what was happening while I was working on that was I was having a really rough day at work, and like it was like endless revisions and just things not working. Like you have 8 projects left at the start of the day, and then the day is done, and you worked like 8 hours, and you still have 8 projects left at the end of the day. And so I was like not in the best mood. And my wife was still at work, and I didn't tell her, I had a lousy day or anything, but I just got a text from her, and so the phone lights up and it says, "Stop what you're doing and look at the moon." It's all the text says. And so I listened, and I like grab my coat and like put on my shoes as I'm running out the door, and it's dark outside, and I look up, and sure enough, there's just this giant, beautiful full moon, and she knew I would appreciate it, and so I felt like that full moon, seeing that full moon, just washed away whatever bad day I had, and that feeling was very much the inspiration for that particular chapter of that story. So, yeah.
Well, I didn't think it was possible for me to love your wife anymore, and now I do. That is like so amazing. Like, who does that? That's like a scene from a movie right there. I'm sorry, but that's like, forget it. Your life is made up. I just decided. But but that is so cool, and I love that. Like for that now, and now she's part of it, and she always will be.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know.
yeah. Always.
I mean, she might want her copyright, her residuals down the line, but whatever.
No,
So it's
I actually talked to her about that. I was like, like, this is your handwriting. Like, technically, we got to put your name on it. And like, she might even have a problem with me sharing that this is her handwriting. She's like, no, we have to keep the illusion alive. It's all you. I'm like, sure.
I know, and it's funny because since you brought that up, like I was curious if those were your wife's lips on this, and of course you hand drew them because why wouldn't you? But and
Yeah, I
they
don't
look
think they
like
would look
real
that
lips.
clean. I don't think they would have looked that clean if either of us had kissed it for real.
Yeah, that's true. I know the idea is nice, but the
It is a nice
execution is
idea.
often not what it. So you said he's like 6'2" because
Oh,
this
I was
is
just
another
throwing that
one.
out there.
Oh, or yeah, I'm like,
Whatever he is, I don't know. He's tall.
but
He's taller than
then,
me, I'm sure.
but then he's a very imposing figure. But then, as I said, this panel stopped me in my tracks because I love this character who is like, he's sort of like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
afraid, he's
He's trying to
intimidated
like
by
size
her.
himself up against her. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so cool. I just love so many, like, this is such a beautiful book. I mean, we haven't really spoiled anything, have we? I
I
don't
don't
think
think so.
so.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
if
think it's
anybody
fine.
can
I
make
think you can
any
still
sense of
appreciate
anything we've said, then more power to them.
it.
So it just, since I forgot my thesaurus, because I really love the name Undiaphanous Wings. What I
Oh,
forgot
thanks.
to look up the meaning of diaphanous. What is it?
It's like kind of see-through, like an
Oh,
insect's
okay.
wings, like that kind of iridescent, translucent kind of look.
That makes sense. I also love this panel here too because it was very, or this little sequence here, it reminded me of like Barney and Betty Hill having their alien
Totally.
encounter for
Yeah.
all you UFO heads that might know or not know. But yeah, I mean, you talk about influence and like, this is another one. Like, oh my gosh, like, how did you do that? Like, that effect is so cool with him, like, sort of disappearing there. Like, you were
Oh,
definitely
thanks.
doing
Yeah.
like some freaking amazing things that I feel like I can see, because I feel somewhat familiar with your art. But I see yourself like growing and like challenging yourself, and it's just like always amazing to me. And now I just realized this is kind of like a rooster head, isn't it?
One of my
Feel-
nephews thought that too, and that's a total coincidence. But yeah, like now I'm going to pretend it's on purpose because people are seeing it. Yeah, it's a rooster head. Sure.
See, and now, as I said, like I can't read this enough because it's definitely one of those books. And now that I know some of it's intentional and some of it's completely accidental, but there are like so many like treasures and nuggets and Easter eggs in here, and just little things to find, and just like little textures and nuances, and just like, this is definitely a book that feels like not an easy read, but like like not a quick read, but like it's not like a tortured read. You know what I mean? Like some things are hard to get through. Like it's very easy to get through, but you want to keep going back because there's like little things that you're definitely missing. I mean, maybe I knew it when I saw it, but this is obviously like a 45 record, right? Or it
Uh,
could
it
be.
was visually, yeah, inspired by that for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to tear it apart too much because as a huge fan and an art nerd myself, sometimes like as much as I want to know the process and the meaning, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to know. Like, keep your secret. Like, where's the magic? You know what I mean? Although I do have to know because I mentioned it in the video. Was your wife standing in the kitchen posing for this with a cleaver in her hand?
That was me with a wooden spoon, actually.
Okay.
And there's a scene where he's got a shovel and he's digging in the dirt, and what had I done it? It was God, I forgot like where I heard this advice, but someone was saying like if you really want to get a good action pose, don't take reference photos, take reference video, and then just use a freeze frame from the video. And
That is so smart.
yeah, and so then I thought, oh, let me try that out. And so like, there's a scene where he's digging with a shovel, and so I took a mop, and I didn't have a shovel on hand, and so there is video somewhere of me without a shirt holding a mop like a shovel, and Neha is recording me digging with my mop shovel in our living room.
That actually, I'm always looking for a reason to go on Shark Tank, and you just gave me my inspiration. A shovel that has a mop head on the other end of it, so that after you bury a body, you can clean it up. I mean, how has nobody
Nice.
thought of that? And I know that like this gave me like Man Thing vibes, like a hundred
Yeah, in that one
percent.
shot, he does look
Was
like
that
a man thing for
intentional
sure.
or no? Probably
No, but I
not.
see it. It wasn't intentional, but I definitely see it.
You're like, and I hid Mickey Mouse on every single page. I'm just
Yeah, right. No, but there are little things like if there's like a word or name you come across in the book and you don't know what it is, I recommend just looking it up because there's Easter eggs all over the place in here, and I think people would potentially enjoy the book even more if they really dove into it from that
Like
angle.
it needs to come with like an answer key or like a, like a highlights magazine. Answers in the back, upside down.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Actually, speaking of like an answer key, gosh, I got to go back to that map page here. It's like you see that weird, almost Zodiac killer type note.
Oh, there's
Um,
meaning to that. Of course there is.
there is. It's possible to translate, and there's also, oh God, where is it? There's a scene where he's on Mars. I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, but etched into the wall there are these little glyphs, and all of it is the same language, and you can potentially find out what it means.
Very cool. Very cool. So it's like almost like a choose your own adventure kind of experience in a way. Like it's like this is like so much more. I'm glad we didn't just call it a graphic novel because it's so much more than that. It's an interactive experience. So what's Aravata mean?
Oh, so that one is so in Hindu mythology, the thunder god Indra rides a white elephant with eight trunks. And so there's a in that story there's a flying white elephant. And so I thought that would be a cool name for a spaceship.
It is, and of course another killer logo, completely original and all your own, of course.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're like,
that's right.
no, it's actually the biggest commercial airline in India. I just thought I'd throw it in there and hope
Oh, that'd be
nobody
pretty
would
funny.
notice.
I get sued.
I know that would be crazy.
See if there's anything else that we need to see. Maybe oh, here's some more process stuff. Look at this. I even did notebook paper. Notebook
Wow.
paper, tracing paper. There's just the word bunny ears over and over and over again. I did so many sheets of it for just one page. There's one page in the book where the word bunny ears shows up a bunch. Look at this. This looks like something that you'd find in the guy's notebook in the movie
Uh,
Seven.
All work and no play makes Sam a dull boy.
I think my wife came home from work one day and there's just like
And she's
10
like,
sheets of paper that said bunny ears all over the apartment. But
I have to go out and get some bread. I'll be right back, never.
exactly.
Well, she must know what a psycho you are.
Yeah, she does, thankfully. And she not only tolerates it, but she supports it.
It's funny. This is such a weird thing to say, but it's like just I guess from experience in the past with like you always hope that it's gonna be well written when you know someone who writes and draws. And I have to say, like, I'm so glad it's well written, you know.
Oh, thanks.
Like, oh, this is like a great, like, I hate to spoil it, but how did I glaze over this great like decapitation? Like
Hold on. this is worth a look, the process for the decapitation here, because this is how messy my art process is. There's two pieces of cardstock masking tape together for the body on the receiving end. And then in a totally different book, in a sketchbook, there's the other figure. And then they're
Wow.
photographed and composited together and then painted on in Photoshop. So, yeah.
I know for anyone watching who thinks that they're an artist, you're not an artist at all.
Oh, yes, you are. We're all
This is
artists.
an artist. I know, I'm just kidding. But I mean,
I
gosh,
like to be supportive.
you make us feel, like inferior slackers. That is beautiful. Like
Oh,
this
thanks.
Pariah needs like it's making a book or art, like the behind the scenes of Pariah, which I guess we can get after a couple more volumes, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I probably should do more of that. This book, I only put one, like the first ever sketch of him, uh, which you alluded to before, kind of has like I guess, a
He's
magical
right here,
origin to
this
it.
one.
Yes, yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cringy drawing because it's really old and not very good, but the bones of the character are still there, so it's kind of interesting to see. But yeah, the basically the cliff notes of the little write up there is I was drawing really late at night, and I would have horrible sleep habits. Like I would be up all night drawing, and my dad would wake up at like 4:30 or 5 a.m. and that would be my cue to like stop drawing usually. Like,
Right.
oh, dad's up, I guess I should go to bed. But I would be drawing all night, and I was sketching this character, and I loosely doodled in the long ears on him, and I didn't darken those lines yet because I wasn't sure if I was going to keep them. And then the sun started to rise, and there was a rabbit hopping across the neighbor's backyard. And so I thought, all right, well, if you see a rabbit when you're on the fence about drawing rabbit ears, you might as well take it as a sign. And so that's how he got his long ears. But
I
the,
mean, your life alone is like enough evidence that we're living in the Matrix. It's like coincidences like that, like just seem too unreal to like exist, right?
well, I think that stuff is all over the place and happens everywhere. It's just some people notice it more. That's all. Like you just have to pay attention to it. And
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, you definitely, I don't know, think, but magic does start to happen, like you talk about that time at night, and that is my favorite time to draw, like when you're the only person on the planet and you've
oh
got
yeah,
like your earbuds on, you're listening to some stupid podcast or some music, hopefully, and just like in your own little world, and just like it really is like, I speak of like channeling or tapping into some sort of source, but anyone who knows as an artist or does art or creative process, like it really is like that. You know what I mean? I mean, technical ability does have to help it, but you're calling on something else for sure.
it definitely feels that way at 3 a.m. Like when you start to
Yeah.
get all loopy and stuff, and like you're maybe more susceptible to being open to that kind of thought. But yeah, it definitely feels magical at times. And like moments like getting a text from Neha saying to look at the moon or whatever it is, like those moments are important. And yeah, I mean, this character came to me in dreams and stuff. Like it's kind of weird. Part of me is always like, oh, what if this is like actually a thing that exists that's like reaching through me, trying to get out into this book. Um, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that is something I've entertained before.
Do you feel like this is a weird question, but do you feel like it's important to you to include those like little like gems or hidden meanings or symbols, or do you feel like it's just an organic part of the process?
Oh, it's definitely organic. I couldn't shoehorn it in. Like, yeah, it's just if it feels right, it feels right. Like the rabbit ears, like it happened to it just happened to work out that way. And it wasn't even just that one instance. Like the rabbit thing goes further back. Like when I was much younger, like 4 or 5 years old, I had an aunt who would call me Suslu, which is the Gujarati word for rabbit. And I remember like being little and going for walks with my mom, and there was this house in the neighborhood that had like a little rabbit lawn ornament, and I would always stop to pet it for whatever reason. And So I don't know. It just seemed like it was destined to come out as a rabbit.
So how long before there's a pet rabbit in the SJR family home? It seems like it's an inevitability at this point.
We'll spray paint him red.
Okay. Nothing creepy about that at all.
No, I had a pet box turtle
Oh, really?
when I was a kid.
Have you
But
am I having a flashback that doesn't exist? Are there turtles in Dishoom somewhere or no?
yeah, the first story, there's actually both a tortoise and a hare.
Oh, duh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
So, I mean,
very
we
weird
just
on
know
Dishoom.
that's your love of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but
Oh, it's definitely part of it. But then there was also like the Tortoise and the Hare Disney animated short that I had on VHS that I watched over and over again long before I knew who the Ninja Turtles were. Um, yeah, I just always thought turtles were cool, but Ninja Turtles were definitely a big part of that. I think pretty much any guy my age uh, went through a turtle phase.
and since it just almost slapped me in the face, and I forgot to mention it during my flip through, but and I kind of wanted to save this question for in person anyway, because why not? But there are no penises in Pariah, like the big wolf dick here in Dishoom #1. And I think there was a Wang in Dishoom too, wasn't there?
Um,
Didn't Thor have like lightning shooting out of his what crotch or
he
something like
he
that?
was Donar was peeing, but you only saw him from behind. There was no
Okay.
nudity in Dishoom 2.
Okay.
But
Was
yeah,
it
so like so what happened with all of that was like I made Dishoom 1 and 2 and I saw them on my Etsy store. I'll plug it real quick. Etsy.com/shop/Sam J Royale. And it says in the product description suggested for mature readers because like there is some nudity, there is like I think one or two curse words in between Dishoom 1 and 2. And it's nothing too crazy. And I feel like it always makes sense for the story. It doesn't feel gratuitous in my opinion anyway. And but anyways, like I made it a point to say like it's suggested for mature readers. And everybody was buying this and giving it to their kids like first
Mhm.
thing. And I would like tell them, I was like, hey, wait, don't let them read that. Like there's look, I'll show you on this page there's this and on this page there's that. And I would say 9 out of 10 times the parent would roll their eyes and be like, my kid's seen way worse. And I didn't know what to make of that. But what happened with Pariah, the reason why Pariah is technically a little cleaner than Dishoom was so we talked about it earlier. You showed it earlier, the decapitation scene. So I had
I
all the
was gonna say
pages.
kids love that.
Yeah. I had a lot of as a kid, I had a lot of books that retold stories from Hindu mythology, and there's a lot of graphic violence in them because, like, I guess it's different cultural standards, and the books were coming from another country, and so I guess like I was desensitized to it as a kid, so it never really horrified me to see like all this like spilled blood on the page, but uh yeah, when I had the decapitation scene, all the pages were saved on my phone, and my like one of my nephews got hold of my phone and starts swiping through everything, and then he gets to the decapitation picture and he's like, what's this? And I'm like, oh no. And I'm trying to grab the phone, and like as soon as you try to grab the phone from a 4-year-old, they know how to, they like double over and they like make it so you
Mhm.
never get it back. And like and so then they were like looking at like he was showing his brother, and then like they were looking at this thing together, uh and I'm like trying to make excuses, and I get my phone back and delete the picture off of it. And like you could see like they were intrigued, but they were also like shaken up by it because like unlike me, they didn't have exposure to that kind of stuff at a young age in books. And even though it was never intended to be a children's book or anything, I just felt so bad about that experience that like I thought, all right, well, none of the rest of it is going to be graphic like that, and there isn't any cursing in it. And so yeah, there's one decapitation. Um, that's as rough as it gets.
Yeah, you know, I think they can handle that, you know.
And it was
Violence
self-defense.
is always way more acceptable than nudity and stuff like that. So, you know,
Well, yeah, in this country, that's how it works.
it is, you know, this country. Well, I don't know. Have we said enough to make people want to buy this
I hope
amazing
so.
book that you have out? I think so, for sure. I mean, I will definitely link all of the how to reach Sam, how to get this book, Pariah,
Pariah,
Many
Many
Lands,
Lands. Yeah, that's right.
episode 1 through 5 collected, but it stands on its own, so don't worry about that. And you can get Sam's Dishoom #1 and #2. And you're not selling envelope art anymore, are you?
I think there's a few. Oh no, you know what? I took them down temporarily because I brought those sketches to the con. I got to put them back up because I have some stuff that didn't sell there, some original art that didn't sell there. So I will have a couple envelopes up, but there's not too many. Maybe 3 or 4 envelopes left. Yeah. What I used to do for people who were new to me and Dishoom was everyone who would buy a copy of the first printing of Dishoom 1 would get a free 6x9 envelope sketch. And like I kept upping it where it used to just be colored pencil, but then it would become colored pencil, ink, marker, watercolor, and then acrylic paint got on there. And like I was putting a lot of time and effort on these envelope sketches. Like they were just full on art pieces by then. And so like I was guaranteed to lose money on them, but it was just something I really wanted to do to show my gratitude for people who were willing to support me when I was new. So
And with Pariah, if you buy a copy of Pariah, Sam will come over to your house and paint a mural in your living room. Could you imagine?
yeah, I don't know about that, but we are wrapping them pretty nicely for the most part. I sent out a couple without the red tissue paper because I ran out, but most of them have at least a nice presentation to them.
I hope to God those people aren't watching because I felt like it was such a great part of the experience. Like if
I
you
felt
order a
bad.
You should. If you order something from Sam, it is going to show up gorgeous. Like I pulled it out of the envelope. It's wrapped in this amazing red tissue paper with the black circle sticker holding it together. Like I almost didn't even want to like open it up. If I had like, I wish I had like Wolverine claws at that time, and I'd be like snick and whoosh, and take it off and just like rip into it. Like like it's a beautiful package from, you know, the way you wrap it, the way you present it. Just like I don't know many more thoughtful creators than Sam J. Royale, and I am talking about you in the third person, but you're right here. But you know, it's like you're talented, you give a great, you know, it's like this is only $25. Like, yeah, see how beautiful that is? Is that a framed?
No, that was just a photo of one I sent out this
Oh, okay.
morning.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, all right.
so you got one that Neha wrapped, and hers were like immaculate. And I thought I did a pretty good job here, but she thought this was like unacceptable. So I gotta up my game.
It
And
is. She's always right. And I could feel her amazing tidy energy on my book when I opened it.
I just felt the need because, like you said, that I did a nice job wrapping it. I was like, ooh, I wish I could take credit. That was definitely her that wrapped yours. So, because like she wanted to make sure you got one of the nice looking ones.
Oh, well, I know. And like, you know, she's like in between contractions, she wrapped my book. Thank
Basically.
you. Thank you, Mrs. Royale. Well, Sam, is there anything you would like to inject, share with us, speak upon before we wrap this up?
No, I'm just gonna say you can find me on social media at Sam J Royale, and my Etsy store is etsy.com/shop/Sam J Royale, SAMJROYALE.
Fantastic. And there's his creepy card, everybody. Yeah, I mean, I could just like, yeah, for sure. I already talked about it, so I'm not going to again. But this is the book, Pariah. It's amazing. It'll almost fit in your back pocket. You can take it with you wherever you go. It is like one of the most unique, amazing comic books I've read in a long time, but you're always one of my favorite artists and creators. It's poignant, it's moving, it's meaningful, and it's a blast. Like it's so much fun. And just to be able to, I can't wait to hang up and go through it again and find some of the little Easter eggs and we talked about and perhaps quiz you again. Like I'm so lucky that I can do that with you.
Yeah,
Anyway,
totally. It'd be fun.
well, everybody should needs to rush out and buy everything Sam J. Royale. He's definitely a creator to keep your eye on, doing great things in the comic book world. I'm so honored and happy that you came here to talk to me today. I'm so proud to call you my friend, and I'm
Well,
very
thanks for
proud of
having
you.
me.
You're welcome. Your book is so great, and you should be extremely proud of it.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. So, all right, everybody, rush out, buy Dishoom, follow Sam on all his socials. I'll link it up in the description of the video to take away the effort from you. But you're definitely not going to regret it. I mean, like, what an amazing catalog. Congratulations, Sam. It is,
Thank you.
I'm so happy for you. You deserve much success on all of this, and I see it coming. Look
Thanks.
at that. So beautiful. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Go check out all of Sam's stuff, and I will bring you more soon. Thanks, guys. That was